1980's ATB and no purse strings to pull tight, no budgetary constraints. This is going to be something Neo Retro special. So as downhill smooth tarmac begins to grow, like and subscribe if you haven't done already, you start to meet and gain contact with more and more social media bike types. I'm going to use the term influencers, but you know, bike guys, more and more of them, and more that share your love for bikes and older stuff. But that sounds like a great thing, does it not? But it becomes another problem because it starts to hit you in the wallet when you see things you want that other people have and then you have to go and buy it. And that's what this is all about. Basically, I've gone and bought myself a late 80s ATB frame that you can see behind me from Frankie Says on Instagram, who's a top bloke, by the way, really nice guy. He also happens to be tall like me, so a lot of his bikes appeal. So let me show you what we're working with. We have got a 1988-89 Saracen Tufftrax. These things are super cool. They have just got retro vibes dripping off them. It's a nice large frame. It's got spiders in it. Didn't clean those out. Me, not him. It's made from Tange chromo tubing. It's all the good stuff. It's got some really nice details like this brake guide under here. They're really robust and they are just fantastic. I mean, they've got chunking great dropouts and a really nice laid back geometry to them as well, which makes them a lot of fun in theory. On top of that, legend has it that these are coated with a powder coat that could withstand a thermonuclear attack. So it's in pretty good shape. What I like about this bike is it's nice and honest. In fact, let's take a closer look. Let me show you. So the frame is really tidy. The decals are a little faded, but the colour is great. I've already given this a little bit of a touch up. Not a touch up, just a treatment really, just to clean and polish. So I've T-cut it delicately around the decals and then I've coated it in a few layers of wax. And it is just in lovely shape. It's a lovely frame and it's got some nice details and it is ripe for what I've got planned for it. So after the budgetary constraints of the cheap bike build-off, which was my last video, the Rally Mirage, you might be wondering what I've got in store. Well, with the help of Martin, my wonderful colleague at Life Cycle, we have devised a plan and he has become a massive great facilitator and enabled this to happen actually. So a massive shout out to Martin. But without more waffling and thanks to people, let me show you what we've come up with. So the plan is to go full on Neo Retro with this bad boy. I mean modern as we can get it. But it's still going to be a 26er. We're not changing wheel sizes. So first of all, wheels. I'm going for my trusty Hope hubbed, basically my lesser rims. These were on the GT gravel bike that I did, the green one, the first one, not the black second one. David Pickering's Bikes built these for me as a do-it-all wheel. Basically, these cover all bases when it comes to the retro stuff I build. So they're rim and disc, they're super duper robust and they're cool as hell. And they're wrapped in Halo H blocks. No Schwalbe Billy Bonkers here. On this one, anyway. It's nothing too spectacular in the wheels, but it's the group set where you're going to start to think I may be losing my mind. And it starts with this dinner plate sized 12 speed cassette. That's right, we're going 12 speed, 1x12. Obviously, who does 2x12? And we're going full SRAM. Again, Martin has facilitated with this green chainring as well. So we're going 1x up front and we've got 38 up front, which I reckon is going to be okay for the 26er. Gearing is going to be taken care of by some SRAM, which is in great condition, again, thanks to Martin. I did tell him I'd thank him for this because he is a facilitator of builds like this once we get our heads together. Bars wise, found some nice wide bars and the obligatory quill stem adapter. Now this quill stem adapter, I am thanking a lot of people in this video One of my neighbours down the road, Dino, dropped this off. He passes by walking his dog. He's a lovely chap, and he happens to have had a few bits he didn't want, and he dropped them off, and this was one of them. And it is just in time for this build, so cheers. Keeping the blue and green theme, got some pedals with SPDs and flat bits so we can have some trail fun. So you may be thinking, that is out there enough. But I started looking at this frame and thinking, if I go for modern braking, we talk about stopping, if I go for modern braking, I'm going to put V-brakes on it. It's going to be linear pull. This has got internal cable routing, and it just got me thinking, like, how cool would it be, like, if we go down the hydro route? Well, I don't want to put disc tabs on it, but then I thought, no, I know what I've got. Knocking about in my boxes of Rammel, I found some of these. So these are Magura HS11s. So they're like a budget hydraulic rim brake from Magura. They're not as Gucci as the old HS33s, but these are perfect for this. They're modern. Some of the parts are missing to fit them, so we're going to have to bodge them on a touch, but I've done this before and it'll work fine. It's my bike, it's not yours, is it? So as long as they stay on there and stop it, it'll be fine. But we're going to have to reroute everything, and we're going to need longer cables. Thankfully, just when I'd given up hope, I managed to find, I trawled a load of bike shops around Leicester and other areas, seeing if anybody had got any Magura specific hydraulic hose, purely because Magura hose, if you don't know, for the HS33s and the old MT2, I think it was, the old early, and the Louise, Magura Louise, I think, their hydraulic cable has no liner. So it's just a basic pipe. And you can get it online, but I wanted it now. So I trawled around trying to get it, couldn't find it anywhere, and then opened my old Magura service kit that I had on the shelf and found a whole roll of it. So build can commence. Okay, so that is the plan. 1x12 hydro rim brakes, Hope hubs. Blimey, what a Gucci build. And I think Frankie might have rebuilt the headset here, so this thing's ready to go. So we're going to go straight into the mix, get some wheels on it, get everything on it, and build it, because, yeah, the weekend is coming, and, you know, we love a test ride. So, okay, so while the bike is in the stand like this, might as well start things off in a big old way by getting a nice rolling chassis going on. Oh my days, that is a dinner plate of a cassette, and that stashed away in there inside a 1980s frame is a Hope Evo hub. Madness. Front one. If you're eagle-eyed, you'll notice I haven't cleaned these wheels since the last time they were ridden on the GT. They're only dusty. I'll have a wipe down at some point. This thing's going to be caked in mud before we know it. Super fresh, super clean, that. Right, let's put some bars in it. Then we've got pretty much like a rolling chassis. In she goes. Beautiful. And this is the first flavour what the bike's going to look like. Okay, so with those bars in and everything else, next thing we need to do is liberally grease up in here because it's a little bit rusty. And we're going to be fitting the GXP bottom bracket. Other way around. Could have sworn I just checked that. We are playing a guessing game with some spacers here, so we may end up having to take this off again, because I've got to compensate for this being what will be a 68mm shell for the GXP. And hopefully this will work out all right. Threads are a little bit rusty, but they're going in fine. That's lovely. If I get this right first time, I'll be so happy. Right, it's worth remembering this would have had an open bottom bracket. When I say open, I mean as in just loose bearings, chunky old square taper axle, and never in our wildest dreams would anyone have thought that we were adding a 1x through axle to this, but let's see if it fits now. I'm going to go no guts, no glory on this and see if we get it right. If we don't, we'll know, and we'll have to pull it back out again. So let's lube this up. In it goes. This is a rebuilt bottom bracket, by the way. So it might be a little on the noisy side. Well, that looks pretty much right. Chain line isn't amazing. So let's see if we get what we want, which is a tight crank with no play. We'll know straight away if we've got play in it. Oh, wow, that's not great, but it'll do for this video. There we go. Wow. Okay, chain line isn't amazing, I'll be honest. Although it's not bad, it is hitting a little bit lower down the block than I'd like, but I think it'll work. It'll work. Let's get the derailleur. Derailleur wise, a little bit of grease on the threads. And I'm going to put this massive SRAM doodad on here. Hopefully the threads are still good. Oh, I'll tell you what, Frankie wasn't messing about. Nice frame. Everything so far, so good. But it is said that these things are phenomenally good quality, these old Saracens. I'm going to put chain on now. So with this being Gucci 12 speed, I have got a brand spanking new chain. And for once in my life, I didn't order a crap one off Amazon, which is normally when I do a little cheeky 12 speed for myself. I buy a cheap one off Amazon and immediately experience incredible buyer's remorse. And they're just literally terrible right from the get-go. It's Shimano's single-use quick link here. Apparently these can't be reused. Whew. There we go. In place. There we have it. Perfect. Apart from that, that was unexpected. I was led to believe this was a narrow wide chain. Oh, that's interesting. Might have to change the chain line ever so slightly there, move the spacer over. We'll be back. Okay, so with the night to sleep on it, bit of professional discussion, got to the bottom of this, and I've had to file down. I've had to do two things actually. I've had to file down the teeth ever so slightly. What was happening with that gearing there was this was snagging, the chain ring, the narrow wide was snagging the 12 speed chain, despite being a 12 speed compatible chain ring. So I've had to file it down, chamfer it up. It's now working perfectly. I've also spaced it in ever so slightly just to help the chain line a touch. It's still not perfect, but you've got to bear in mind, we're trying to fit a drivetrain that didn't exist and wouldn't exist for maybe another almost 30 years after this bike was created. So playing with fire here, people, but we now have 12 speeds working and that lovely Hope sound. Chain staying on. We can move on now to the next head scratcher, which is probably going to be actually the brakes. Before we index this up, let's have a look at those brakes. Okay, so for a kickoff, I'm going to fit the brace for the brake and the calipers themselves roughly into place. Now, like I said, I haven't got the little post adapters for these, so I am going to have to install these in a sort of a rough way where they're going to basically do their job completely bolted up. Which, all that means is that when it comes to having a puncture or anything like that, we won't have the quick release mechanism working. It'll just be zip tied shut so we don't lose it. By which I mean this lever here is the only thing that's going to have a little tie around it. Could take it off, but hopefully we'll get some posts at some point and we can just quickly swap them over. But for now, we can do it this way. Now, this is the first time I've ever really fitted any HS 11s. For years I've done 33s, and no concerns there. These are the same principle, but I have to say they're much easier to fit. Straight from the get-go, they're much, much easier to fit. So I'm just lining up the caliper roughly there, just so I've got my calipers in a locked location, because I'm now going to remove this hose and we're going to reroute a new one. Let's get this off here. There we go. That's the cable, locking nut, some kind of olive, and the lever. Here we go. Right. So the next job is really cool, because this is where we're going to suddenly have a 1980s bike with internally routed hydros. The Saracen has basically internal routing for cabling here, which for its time is absolutely fantastic for a mountain bike. There we go, look at that. So we can now run a nice hydro line however we like. I think we'll come old school, we'll just go this way. So I'm going to give myself a little bit more than I need. Come round. Next bit, let's get a lever. Okay, meanwhile at the lever, I'm going to put the lever on and the grip so I can get my lengths exactly where I want them. I'll pop a grip on here. So I just know roughly where I want my lever. And we're going to want to go, I reckon, about there. Nice line. This is the world's cheapest hose cutter. I've just broken it, as you can see. Oh, it works very well there. Before we do the lever, let's sort out everything out back. Now I've got suitable olive ready to go on here, and I'm reusing this thread. In fact, actually, we've got a new one. Yes, we have. We've got a brand new olive and a brand new nut to go back on there. If you haven't done this before, push the hose in and start threading it by hand. And then what we need to do is tighten this right up until we start crushing the olive. There we go. Right, let me just. So we're just going to crush that nut down. So we're going to do this nice and tight. Bearing in mind this has got to be sealed, crushed and tight to make sure no fluid leaks out. We don't want hydraulic fluid piddling everywhere. We want this. These should be a nice simple break to bleed up. This shouldn't be difficult. These are very, very simple systems and they're very, very simple to work with. So hopefully, obviously these are untested. I found these in a box and they don't work. There is very little fluid in them, so I'm guessing that's why they don't work. So I'm going to replace as much as I can on them, but anyone who hasn't ridden on these or doesn't remember them, Maggie's are actually very, very powerful. They're a very powerful rim brake. Very powerful, but basically the pads you see here will last about 9 miles and then you'll have to change them because they're made of cheese. There we go. Right, back to the lever. Okay, now for the lever, I'm going to fit a new one of these onto the end, which these just seem to push on. Be able to push this back into place. So let's get that in place and then we'll be able to reseat it. I've already put the cover ready in place. I'm just going to warm this up a touch. Okay, so no need for warming up after all. I've totally forgotten, I have got a nice cheap tool for setting barbs and it works absolutely perfectly for this job. So we're up here to now start feeding this back into the lever with that 8mm again. So that lever is going to be sealed up any second now, and then we can bleed it up and see what we get on. I'm not going to go mad because these levers feel like they're entirely made of plastic. Then we're going to get ready to bleed up, which we're going to start by putting our lever in an upright position like this, getting our Torx bolt out of the bleed port and getting a syringe ready at this end. First thing we need to do, once we've put the lever up like this, is I'm just going to screw this syringe in here and leave it there like that. It's half open because what we're going to do for a start is just push fluid all the way through the system. And meanwhile, out back, I've got a syringe of mineral oil. I'm going to screw into here. Hopefully, I have tested this, it should screw into here. There we go. And with a little bit of luck, we should be able to start bleeding the system through. Let's get that air bubble out first though. Oh, it's full of air, look. Full of air. Don't want to send that back through if I can help it. Let's get that out. There we go. Right. What I'm looking to do now is I'm going to send the fluid through and hopefully it's going to start coming out at the lever end. There we go. It's just coming through now and I've got a little leak. So I'm just going to go to the front, sort that out. Okay, so the leak up front was actually just the bleed kit dribbling a tiny bit, so I put a rag under that. Now I've pushed fluid through, there's no more air, I can now seal my system back up, and that should, in theory, be my Magura system bled, in theory. We'll see if we get any lever feel at all. So there we go, short of a setup. That is the Magura brake running. Now I've just lined up the pads very, very quickly. You do that just by adjusting these two Torx doodads here. And now we've got a lovely, powerful hydraulic rim brake. Now all I've got to do is repeat the process with the front one. I haven't had a time lapse in this video. Here you are. Oh yes, there we go. Now got brake feel, hydro brakes. Back one still might need a little bit of tweaking. Front one's getting good. Brilliant, right. Gears and a saddle, some pedals. This thing's done. So let's crack on and get it finished. We can get it out in the light because the sun is shining and we'll show this bad boy off. There we go. Okay, a little bit of oil into the liner. Route this through. Goodness me. Right, okay. Let's put that through there for a start. I don't know why SRAM do this. They basically make their cable routing like a Krypton Factor challenge or something out of the Crystal Maze. There we are. Well, that's running lovely. Doing some fun Mamba pedals, just to keep the green theme going, green and blue. These are massive whacking great pedals compared to what I normally use. Right, let's get it a saddle and then show it off. Okay, well doesn't the Tufftrax look amazing? Resplendent in this glorious spring sunshine. I cannot wait to get out and ride this, but before that, let's recap. So, we took a 1988 Saracen Tufftrax, handmade in England with Tange tubing or Tange or whatever you want to call it. We added a 1x12 SRAM drivetrain. I added Magura HS11 hydraulic rim brakes for all the modern good stuff. I then put in my Hope hubbed, a lesser rimmed Ultimate 26er wheel set with my Halo H-block tyres. So this thing will roll really nicely. We did Blackburn, brand new cages, charge spoon saddle, a few matching green bits, including that troublesome chainring, which now works perfectly. With all that said and done, it's time for the sign off. So I hope your next ride is downhill, smooth tarmac. Keep your wheels spinning, keep your rubber on the road or your knobblies out on that trail. Be safe out there, look out for one another, be a good human being first and an even better cyclist second. If you get a minute, as many of you have, like and subscribe. It means an awful lot to me and it helps the channel grow. But above all else, don't let any of that get in the way of you getting out and riding your bike, especially when the weather's like this. Till next time, it's been downhill, smooth tarmac.